This is nowhere near the worst hair I've ever had to key, but it is going to be pretty challenging. If we take a close look, you can see we have very, very detailed strands of long, wavy hair, which represent a lot of pixel values from very dark, where it's most opaque, to this kind of medium and even light gray, floating over a background that is not completely white. It's certainly not solid. It's made up of other shades of gray and bricks and these dark black shadows, etc. This is going to be a little bit tricky. And the most important thing to know about this, it is absolutely beyond the reach of any of the automated tools that are currently built into Photoshop. You just won't be able to do this with the Magic Wand tool. You certainly won't be able to do this with any automatic selection tools. In fact, we're going to have to resort to a fairly old but still extremely useful technique of using channels as mats. So how do we go about that? Well, first let me grab our lasso tool. We'll go back to our background layer again, and I'm going to do basically a garbage mat around our dancer's head. I want to make sure to encompass all of the strands of hair, but no more of the background than we need to grab. So it can be a fairly rough mask, but also a fairly tight one. I'll move up here to somewhere around her armpit, and I'm going to hold down the Option key on the Mac, Alt on Windows, to change our lasso tool between the normal state and if you hold this down over here, you can see the polygonal lasso tool. Well, you never need to select the polygonal lasso tool. You never need to select this tool. You can always get to it by just adding the Option or Alt key on Windows to the regular lasso tool. And that gives you these nice straight lines. And we're going to rough our way around our model's hair. You could do this with a pen tool if you'd prefer, but for this sort of thing, I'm perfectly happy with the lasso tool, because ultimately what we want is a selection. Now, we'll come down a little ways into the tutu, but not too far, because there's no detail of hair anyway, so we know we're going to be masking this out. And we know we've got body pixels that go up to her shoulders, so I'm going to overlap those a little bit, just to make sure we don't inadvertently leave any holes. Okay, there we go. And now, once again, Command-Option-J or Control-Alt-J to float to our head layer. This layer won't live very long. As soon as we pull a decent key, we'll merge it in with the body layer. But for now, we have our head. We can turn off our background layer. Now you can see if I go to full screen with Command-0 or Control-0 on Windows, we're most of the way towards where we need to be. But of course, if I hit Command-1 to take us to 100% pixel view, we obviously have a lot of work to do around the hair. And to truly evaluate the results of our work, our checkerboard background here is a little bit too bright for my taste. So I'm going to come up to Photoshop Preferences, choose Transparency and Gamut, change our grid colors to dark. We could do something custom if we wanted to, but dark is fine for now. And I'm also going to turn off this medium check, choose a large check, click OK. And now that'll be a much more useful background for us to evaluate the quality of this key. Now for the next step, we're going to need to turn our background layer back on again, because we're going to borrow a channel from this layer. So I'll turn it on. We'll select it, although that's not entirely necessary, but just to sort of keep everything visually neat. And now let's talk a little bit about the second panel here in this cluster of panels, the Channels panel. If we click on it, you'll see that we're looking at the RGB channel, the full color channel here in our image, obviously, which also means that we are looking at the red, the green, and the blue channel. So all four of them are selected, red, green, blue as individuals, and RGB as the sort of aggregate combined view. But you can look at any individual channel that you like just by clicking on it. Clicking on a channel will temporarily solo that channel. You don't have to hold down any modifier keys or anything like that. So we can pretty quickly look at the red channel, the green channel, and the blue channel with an eye towards which channel has good contrast. The blue channel has excellent contrast. How are the channels relative to each other in terms of noise? Because noise can really mess up a decent key. And as much as I like the blue channel for its contrast, it might end up being actually a little bit too noisy for us. In general, with digital cameras, the blue channel can have as little as half the resolution of the green channel, for example. So let's take a look at green, which I think is a nice compromise between red, which I think is a little bit too light, and blue, which I think is perfect contrast but a little too noisy. So let's pick green. Going to select all. That's Command-A or Control-A on Windows. Copy. Now re-enable our RGB channels. And since you may end up doing this a lot, it's worth noting the keyboard shortcuts. Command or Control 2 for full color, 3 for red, 4 for green, 5 for blue. And if you have a CMYK image, you can go up to Command 6 as well for the K part, which is black. But let's go back to Command 2 now. We've copied our green channel, and now we want to use that channel as a mask. So let's go back to our layers, select the head, and let's solo the head. I'm going to hold down the Option key or the Alt key on Windows, click on the eyeball, and now we're just looking at our head layer. And we're going to add a mask to this layer with the little mask button down here. And even though the mask is selected, in this view, if we just paste, it's actually going to paste a new layer in. You can see it here in the layer palette. It has actually added a new layer based on that single grayscale channel where we copied that information from. And that's not what we want to do. We actually want to paste the information into the mask, not into the document as a new layer. So let's undo that. And instead of just selecting this layer, hold down the Option key or the Alt key on Windows and click. And now we're in the mask view mode. We can actually see our mask. And if we paste here, presto, you can see both here in the layer window and on screen that our mask is now the channel that we pasted in. And if we Option click once again, you can see that the mask is actually starting to work on our head layer. It's not doing what we want it to do yet, but this is exactly what we want things to look like right now. So, in order to really work effectively, I'm going to take advantage of the multiple window feature inside Photoshop. This is a great feature that allows you to work in one view while you see the results in the other view. And it's particularly useful for this kind of work. And because this is kind of an old technique, the first approach to it I'm going to show you is actually the old-fashioned way of doing it. Then I'll show you the newer, faster way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the Window menu. And under Arrange, I'm going to choose New Window for Ballerina. When I do, we'll see this new window zoomed out to full screen. Now currently we are in full screen mode with menu bar. Let's switch over to standard screen mode. We can see Bridge in the background there. So let's say Photoshop Hide Others. There we go. And if we open up this window here, you'll see that we now have these two tabs, the Ballerina JPEG and the Ballerina JPEG. These are both the exact same file. We're just looking at one of them zoomed in and one of them zoomed out. So if we go back to Window, Arrange, and choose Float in Window, now we have two windows. Be careful not to accidentally drag them back together as one. Go back to Window, choose Arrange, and now choose Tile. And presto, we have our windows arranged next to each other, each occupying the same amount of real estate on screen. And that's the old-fashioned way of arranging two views. Of course, the new way is to use this wonderful Arrange Documents pop-up new in CS4. If we come here and choose the two-up view, well, we skip all of those steps. Once we've created our second view, or 3 views, 4 views, whatever, you can arrange them automatically using this pop-up right here.